All right, let's dive in. Bitcoin. Right. But not the usual to the moon stuff, no. This time we're going deeper.
Deeper.
Way deeper. It's about what Bitcoin can do, not just, being money, like technology-wise.
The possibilities.
Exactly. Imagine paying for Wi-Fi, but like by the kilobyte. Or someone needs help, disaster strikes across the world, boom, you send aid instantly.
That's the intriguing part. It's more than just digital cash, really. It's a tech we're still figuring out, like this Italian research we're looking at.
It's giving early internet vibes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Back then, email was everything, but social media, streaming, who knew?
Precisely. Bitcoin's at that point, I'd say. And a big separator is the security aspect, giving users control, fraud protection like nothing before.
That's got to be a relief for anyone who's ever been, scammed online. What's so different about it?
Well, you can't really counterfeit Bitcoin. The cryptography is rock solid, super hard to manipulate. Plus, your wallet, you control it completely.
So trust the math, not the bank.
Kinda, yeah. And for the extra cautious, there are these things called hardware wallets, like imagine a flash drive, but super secure, just for your Bitcoin.
Gotcha. Security is one thing, but Bitcoin's always been about global reach, right? How does that actually work?
Picture this, you sending money anywhere, instantly, cheaply, doesn't matter if they have a bank or not. That's Bitcoin's potential. It bypasses the whole traditional banking system, opens up so much for millions.
That could be huge for places without reliable banking, right?
Absolutely. Think remittances. Sending money to family overseas, those fees can be brutal. Bitcoin could slash them. A real game changer for lifting people out of poverty, honestly.
Now, for something straight out of sci-fi, micropayments. What can we do with Bitcoin that's impossible now?
Imagine paying for radio by the second or tolls. They just deduct as you drive. Even tipping creators, tiny fractions of a cent. Bitcoin makes those tiny transactions possible. It's so efficient.
So like a world of tiny payments, almost invisible. Mind-blowing. But let's shift gears a bit. What about Bitcoin and, say, crowdfunding?
Think Kickstarter, but with built-in guarantees, like funds only released when the project actually hits its goals. Bitcoin can power that. No more scams or projects that never deliver.
Adds a whole new level of trust to it. But disagreements happen, right? Can Bitcoin help resolve disputes too?
It can. Multi-signature transactions, perfect for mediation. Imagine a neutral third party helps resolve things but doesn't control the funds themselves, like a built-in judge almost.
Okay, so security, global reach, dispute resolution, but what about transparency? There's so much distrust, especially with traditional finance. How does Bitcoin address that?
That's where its unique features shine. Every transaction is public on the blockchain, but users stay anonymous. Powerful combo boosts trust in organizations.
So everyone sees the money moving, but nobody knows who's sending or receiving.
Exactly. Revolutionary, really. Nonprofits, proving donations, companies showing accountability, it's all verifiable.
Good.
Building trust through information.
So we're trusting the system, not the institution in a way. But let's talk decentralization. How does that fit in?
That's one of Bitcoin's strengths. It runs on a decentralized network, meaning no single entity controls it, no government, no bank.
So no single point of failure. One part goes down, the whole thing keeps running.
That's the idea. Bank server crashes, your money's gone, right? With Bitcoin, even if parts of the network fail, the system's still operational.
Pretty incredible. But how does that translate to, real-world stuff?
Think about it. Vending machines adjusting prices based on demand, in real time, self-driving taxis handling payments seamlessly, smart contracts like agreements that automatically execute when certain conditions are met.
Wait, smart contracts. Sounds like we're in the future.
Transactions, cutting out middlemen, everyone keeps their promises. It's remarkable, isn't it? How Bitcoin's changing how we think about, everything, trust, transactions. But gotta remember, any new tech, there are challenges.
Good point, yeah. We've been pretty positive about Bitcoin so far. What are people, worried about?
Oh, there are definitely concerns. Some folks, they worry about the volatility, Bitcoin's price jumping around, and then there's the misuse, bad actors, that sort of thing. Oh, and the environmental impact, mining and all that. It's all got to be considered, for sure.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Volatility, that's a big one. Bitcoin's price has been, a roller coaster, hasn't it? Should we be worried?
It's true. Bitcoin's had some wild swings, but that's often because it's still new, the market's finding its feet. As more people use it, tech gets refined, things will probably stabilize,
Like anything new, right? A bit chaotic at first, Then it settles down. What about the misuse thing? Criminals using Bitcoin? That's a real fear, right?
Any tool can be used for good or bad. Bitcoin's no different. But here's the thing. Transactions are recorded on the blockchain, traceable. Plus, governments, regulators, they're figuring out how to prevent the bad stuff while still letting the good stuff happen.
So, not perfect, but ways to manage the risks. What about the environmental impact? Mining uses a lot of energy, right?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. Mining, it's how transactions are verified, added to the blockchain, needs serious computing power, which means energy for sure. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a movement within the Bitcoin community towards sustainable mining.
So, what does that look like? Less energy-intensive mining, is that even possible?
Absolutely. Many miners now, they're using renewable energy, solar, wind, and there's research into more efficient algorithms too.
So it's not just the tech itself, but how it's used, minimizing environmental impact. Sounds like people are working on it, at least.
Oh yeah, there's a big push for sustainable, responsible Bitcoin. It's a constant conversation in the community. And well, everyone needs to be a part of that conversation.
It's complex, isn't it?
Yeah.
The tech itself, the impact it can have. For someone new to Bitcoin, it can be a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Where do you even start?
It's like drinking from a fire hose. I get it. So much info, always changing. Start with the basics, I'd say. How Bitcoin works, what you can use it for, the good and the bad.
Okay, basics first. What about the Bitcoin community? Is that a good way to learn?
Definitely. It's super active, welcoming. Online forums, meetups, conferences, connect with people who are passionate about Bitcoin, learn from others, ask questions, stay updated.
Basics community. What other advice would you give to someone starting out?
Experiment. Download a wallet, buy a little Bitcoin, send a transaction to a friend. Learn by doing. That's the best way. And remember, Bitcoin's more than just tech. It's a movement, an idea that could change the world, really.
It's exciting, right? The possibilities for Bitcoin, for how we live, interact. But got to keep things in perspective too, I think.
Agreed. Easy to get caught up in the hype, but balance is key. Huge potential, but not a magic solution. Understand both sides, the good and the bad.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
This. Bitcoin's more than digital currency. It's a technology that could change how we think about money, trust, even our institutions. But it's future. It's in our hands. We shape it, make sure it's used for good.
That's a good point. Bitcoin's future, it's not set in stone. We're all creating it with every choice, every action. Welcome back. Still diving deep into Bitcoin. I don't know about you, but my head's spinning a bit. All these microtransactions, self-executing contracts, it's a lot.
It is, and we've barely scratched the surface. This tech, the possibilities, they're huge, and new ideas pop up all the time. It's incredible.
It's like peeking into the future of finance, but there's so much more to uncover. What questions should we be asking as Bitcoin keeps evolving?
Big one is integration. How does it fit with what we already have? Does it replace banks, or do we get some kind of hybrid system? And what about governments, regulators? How do they adapt?
Huge questions, yeah. And what about the ethics of it all? As Bitcoin grows, we got to think about the impact, privacy, security, even equality, right?
Absolutely. We need open conversations about the risks, the benefits, who can access it, who controls it, how do we make sure it's used responsibly, doesn't make existing problems worse.
It's like any powerful tool can be used for good or bad. Depends on us, right? So wrapping up this deep dive, what's the one message you want to leave our listeners with?
I'd say this, Bitcoin, it's more than just tech. It's a catalyst for change, a chance to rethink our relationship with money, power, trust. But it's future. It's in our hands. We shape it, make sure it benefits humanity.
Powerful message. This deep dive has been eye-opening for sure. Bitcoin is something we got to pay attention to. It's not just about the money. It's about a more equitable, transparent world, maybe even decentralized. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
The pleasure was mine, exploring this with you. Keep those questions coming, stay curious, and remember, the future, we build it.